The man I called my father, the one who taught me how to ride a bike and skip a stone, isn't my real father. I know that now. For the first 32 years of my life, though, I had no idea. For 3 decades, I was living in a story so carefully built and so full of love that I never, not once, thought to question it. And then, a little vial of spit and a holiday sale on a DNA kit blew the whole thing apart. This isn't a story about a broken home. It's the opposite. It's a story about a home that was so seemingly perfect, so solid, that its foundation was strong enough to hide the biggest secret of all. It's about how that perfection was the most convincing lie. Welcome to Nightfall Narrative. We're a community built on the power of sharing complex, human stories. What you're about to hear is a deeply personal account of a life-altering discovery. This has been the most isolating thing I've ever gone through. If you're out there and your world has been turned upside down by a family secret or a DNA test, please know you are not alone. There are whole communities of people trying to figure out these, not parent-expected discoveries. If you have a story or just want to share how you're feeling, please drop it in the comments. Reading other people's experiences has been a lifeline for me, and I hope we can create a space for that here. I always thought my identity was a settled thing. A simple equation: my dad's quiet strength plus my mom's fiery wit, his blue-collar roots and her artistic soul. I was the product of their love story, a story I'd heard 1,000 times. But it turns out I was the product of *** story, just not the one I was told. The truth is, my entire existence is the epilogue to a chapter my mom tried to tear out of her book. And the man whose DNA is actually mixed with mine was a ghost in my life all along, a man I knew by a different name, a man I saw but never really saw. The moment I found out, the moment the screen lit up with a truth I couldn't process, my past just dissolved. My whole childhood, every single memory, suddenly felt blurry, untrustworthy. To really get the depth of this whole thing, you have to understand the world I grew up in. It wasn't just a normal childhood. By all accounts, it was idyllic. We were the family people pointed to, the example. The ones with the perfect lawn, the annual road trips in a station wagon with fake wood paneling, and the kind of easy, laughter-filled dinners you see in commercials. My dad, the man I called Dad for 32 years, Frank, was the bedrock of this world. He's a man of few words, but his actions spoke volumes. His hands, calloused and strong from a lifetime as a mechanic, were the same hands that patiently tied my shoes, built the most insane Lego castles, and held mine when he walked me down the aisle. He had a smell I can only describe as safety, a mix of sawdust, coffee, and Old Spice. He taught me about integrity, not by lecturing, but by living it. He was the guy who'd spend 3 hours helping a neighbor fix a fence in the rain and never bring it up. He was quiet, steady, and predictable in the most comforting way imaginable. We had our rituals. Every Sunday morning, he'd make pancakes from scratch, the batter always a little lumpy, just how I liked it, while humming off-key to the oldies station. As I got older, Sunday mornings turned into lessons on changing a tire or checking my oil. He wasn't my biological father, but he was the man who raised me. My mom, Clara, was the vibrant color to his stoic black and white. She was pure energy and passion, a high school art teacher whose creativity spilled into every corner of our house. Canvases leaned against walls, the smell of turpentine was a permanent part of the laundry room, and every piece of furniture had been repainted at least twice. She was the one who fed my imagination, who told me I could be anything, who read me bedtime stories with so much drama the characters felt like my actual friends. She was the heart of our home. Christmas was her masterpiece. The house would become a winter wonderland, and she'd bake dozens of kinds of cookies, each one a tiny piece of art. Together, they were the perfect team. They rarely fought, and if they did, it was quiet and over quickly. I always saw that as harmony, a sign of their strong bond. It never occurred to me it could be avoidance, a silent pact to never poke the bear, to never disturb the fragile peace they'd built around their secret. They were Frank and Clara, the couple who met in college, fell in love, and built a life. And I was their daughter, the happy only child at the center of their universe. My whole identity was tied up in this story. I had my dad's quiet determination and my mom's artistic eye. Family members would always comment on it. "You have your mother's smile," an aunt would say. "But those eyes, that's all, Frank," a grandparent would add. My eyes are a weird hazel green, which didn't match anyone in our family of blue and brown eyes. We just laughed it off as a genetic quirk. I even felt a little special, having a feature that was just mine. It never, ever felt like a clue. Why would it? In a house built on what felt like total transparency and love, you don't go looking for hidden doors. We had so many stories. The story of Dad proposing to Mom under a meteor shower. The story of the disastrous camping trip when a raccoon stole all their food. The story of bringing me home from the hospital. These stories were my history, my personal mythology, polished smooth from being told and retold at every family gathering. They were the building blocks of my life. A life that I would soon find out was the most elaborate story of them all. The lie started to unravel in the most boring way possible. A Black Friday sale. My wife, Sarah, loves genealogy. For her, it's a giant, fascinating puzzle. She'd spent years mapping out her own family tree, tracing it back to Ireland and Italy. My family tree, on the other hand, was short and simple. Dad's side were hardworking German farmers. Mom was a mix of Scottish and English. Neat, tidy, and honestly, a little dull. That November, Sarah spotted a 2-for-1 deal on a DNA kit. "We should do it," she said, her eyes lighting up. "It'll be fun. Maybe you're secretly a Viking." I laughed and agreed, mostly for her. I was expecting zero surprises. I was Frank and Clara's daughter. German, Scottish, English, end of story. The idea of a DNA test revealing some big secret felt about as likely as finding a winning lottery ticket on the street. That stuff happens to people on daytime TV, not to me. The kits showed up a week later. We sat at the kitchen table, laughing as we awkwardly spit into the little tubes. We sealed them, mailed them off, and pretty much forgot about them. The holidays were a blur of work and family. The DNA tests were just a fun little thing we did. About 6 weeks later, an email landed in my inbox. "Your ancestry results are in." "Hey, our DNA results are here," I yelled to Sarah. I clicked the link, mildly curious. I expected a pie chart, a big slice of Germanic Europe, a smaller chunk of England and Northwestern Europe, and maybe a tiny piece of Scotland. The page loaded, I just stared. It was wrong, all wrong. According to the screen, I was 50% Ashkenazi Jewish. 50%, not a fun little sliver, a full half. The other 50% was a mix of English and Irish. The German heritage, the bedrock of my father's identity and what I thought was a huge part of mine, was completely gone. 0. My first thought wasn't my life is a lie asterisk. It was, they screwed up. The lab must have switched my sample. It was the only thing that made sense. "This is weird," I said, my voice tight. "It says I'm half Jewish. They must have swapped our vials." Sarah came over and looked at my screen, then pulled up her results. Hers were exactly what she expected. "That's really strange," she said slowly. "Are you asterisk sure there's no Jewish history in your family?" "Positive," I snapped back. Frank's family has been in the same German-American community for 200 years. Mom's side is all Protestant. There's no way. I felt defensive, like this website was telling me I didn't know my own family. But then I saw the other tab, DNA matches. My heart started to thud. Okay, this is where the mistake will be obvious. I clicked it. At the very top of the list, under the heading Close Family, was a name I didn't recognize, Benjamin Cohen. The predicted relationship, father. I couldn't breathe. It felt like getting the wind knocked out of me, but in my soul. The screen seemed to swim. Father, the word pulsed. It had to be a mistake, a glitch. Predicted relationship. It's just a prediction, right? A very, very wrong one. Sarah, I said, my voice sounding like it was coming from down a long tunnel. Look at this. She leaned in. I saw her eyes go wide. Oh my God, she whispered. My hands were shaking as I started clicking frantically on Benjamin Cohen's profile. There was a picture. A man in his late 60s, with kind, dark eyes, a warm smile, and graying, curly hair. He looked friendly, and he looked vaguely familiar. I couldn't place him, but something about his face tugged at a memory I couldn't quite grasp. My mind was a tornado of denial. This was impossible. Frank was my father. I have his last name. I have 32 years of memories. I have his love. A computer screen can't just erase all of that. It can't. But even as I was denying it, a cold little splinter of doubt started working its way into my heart. 50% Ashkenazi Jewish. 0 German DNA. A stranger listed as my father. I started thinking back, grasping for anything that didn't fit. My green eyes. The way my mother would get a tight, strained look on her face and change the subject whenever I asked about the time before she and Dad got married. I always just thought I was annoying her, but now it felt like she was hiding something. I fell into an internet rabbit hole, typing DNA test wrong father and shocking ancestry results into the search bar. Story after story popped up. People discovering their dad wasn't their biological father, finding secret siblings, and learning they were donor-conceived. They called it an NPE, a not parent-expected event. I'd never heard the term before, but I already felt branded by it. They all described the same feeling: shock, disbelief, the ground crumbling under their feet. The world I had known my whole life was starting to fracture, and I had a sick feeling the whole house was about to come crashing down. Finding out your life isn't what you thought is an incredibly isolating feeling. Here at Nightfall Narrative, we want you to know you aren't alone. If you're connecting with this story, or if you've had your own, not parent-expected discovery, please share your thoughts or experiences in the comments. Reading them is a lifeline for so many, and it's the heart of this community. The hours after that felt like an out-of-body experience. I went through the motions, made dinner, talked with Sarah, but my mind was somewhere else entirely, replaying the words on that screen. Benjamin Cohen, father, 50% Ashkenazi Jewish. Each thought was a fresh shockwave. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. Every single childhood memory was now contaminated. Was that why Frank asterisk, and I didn't really look alike? Were people saying I had my mother's features, just a convenient way to avoid the obvious? The betrayal felt huge, like a wound had just been ripped open in the middle of my life. It wasn't just about biology. My entire history felt like it had been rewritten without my permission. I got out of bed and went back to the computer. I had to know who this Benjamin Cohen was. The vague familiarity of his photo haunted me. I typed his name into Google. The first result was for Dr. Benjamin Cohen, a retired cardiologist. The location listed was my hometown, Not just the same city, the same small suburban town where I grew up. My blood ran cold. He had been there. The whole time. I clicked on the images and then I saw it. A photo of him from about 15 years ago at a charity golf tournament, standing next to another man. That other man was Frank. I physically flinched, pulling back from the screen as if it had burned me. A choked, strangled sound came out of my throat. They knew each other. Frank had never mentioned a Dr. Cohen, not once. My search turned frantic. I found my mom's old high school yearbooks in the attic and flipped through the pages with trembling hands. And there he was, Ben Cohen, a skinny kid with the same kind smile and curly hair. He was in the drama club with my mother. There was a picture of them together from the spring musical, standing side by side, beaming. The timeline clicked into place with a horrifying, sickening math. Mom and Ben Cohen were friends, more than friends. In high school, they graduated. I was born about a year later. My mother met Frank when I was a toddler and they got married. The story that she and Frank met in college was a total lie. Frank had stepped in. He adopted me, gave me his name, and raised me as his own. They built a fortress of lies around our family to hide where I came from. This was a whole new kind of pain. This wasn't just my mom's secret, it was a conspiracy. A deal made decades ago by the three most important people in my life. My mother, who lied to me every day. Frank, the man I worshipped, who went along with it. And Benjamin Cohen, my biological father, who lived in the same town and let me grow up thinking I was someone else's kid. Did he know about me? Did he ever see me at the grocery store? At the park? Did he ever wonder? The anger was a hot, searing thing. Anger at my mother for her deception. Anger at Frank for his silence. How could they watch me grow up talking about my German heritage and never say a word? Every "I love you," every birthday, every holiday was now tainted. Who was I if not Frank and Clara's daughter? Half of my biology, half of my ancestors were strangers. I had a whole other family out there. Grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins that I knew nothing about. I was grieving for a life, the life I thought I had. I was mourning the simple, solid truth of who I was. And I was mourning the trust I had placed so completely in the people I loved the most. Sarah found me at dawn, slumped over the desk. She put a hand on my shoulder and I just shattered. I sobbed, these gut-wrenching, body-shaking sobs. I cried for the little girl who never knew her own story. The perfect picture of my childhood was gone, and all that was left were the sharp, jagged pieces. For a week, I just existed. The truth was a heavy, silent thing in our house. I told Sarah everything, and she became my anchor. I kept asking, "Gee, what do I do? How do I even start this conversation?" The thought of confronting my parents was terrifying. It felt like pulling the pin on a grenade. This secret had been kept for over 30 years to protect the family. Unearthing it felt like an act of destruction. But I couldn't unknow it. I couldn't go back. The lie was a chasm growing between us. I couldn't look Frank in the eye. I couldn't hear my mother's cheerful voice on the phone without resentment bubbling up. I decided to talk to my mom first, alone. I drove to their house, the house I grew up in, and the familiar streets felt like a movie set for a life that wasn't mine. She was in the garden, and she looked up and gave me that same warm, loving smile. For a second, I almost chickened out. "Honey, what a nice surprise," she said. "We need to talk, Mom," I said. My voice was steady, colder than I meant it to be. Her smile vanished. She saw my face and knew. We went inside and sat at the kitchen table. The silence was thick. I took a deep breath and slid my phone across the table, showing the DNA results. "I took a DNA test," I said quietly. She stared at the phone. Her face went white. She didn't pretend to be confused. She just deflated. Her shoulders slumped, and she covered her face with her hands. When she finally looked up, her eyes were full of tears and a deep, soul-crushing shame. "I'm so sorry," she whispered, her voice cracking. "I always knew this day would come. I just hoped it wouldn't." And the real story came tumbling out, messy and human and full of regret. She and Ben Cohen had been high school sweethearts. His traditional family didn't approve of her not being Jewish. The pressure became too much, and they had a devastating breakup. A few weeks later, heartbroken, they had one last goodbye kind of night. 2 months later, she found out she was pregnant. She was 19, terrified and ashamed. She told Ben, and he panicked. He offered money, but he didn't want to be a father. He walked away. My mother told her parents it was a college fling. A few months after I was born, she met Frank. He was kind and steady. He knew she had a baby. He fell in love with her, and he fell in love with me. He offered to give me his name, to raise me, to be my father in every way that mattered. The lie became their shield, a way to protect, and their new, fragile family from the past. "We just wanted to give you a normal, happy life," she cried. "Frank is * your father. He loves you more than anything. We thought we were protecting you." Hearing her pain chipped away at my anger, but the betrayal was still raw. "Protecting me, or protecting yourselves?" I asked. "You lied to me my whole life. Did you ever think I had a right to know who I am?" That evening, Frank came home and found us, red-eyed and exhausted. He took one look at us and knew the secret was out. He sat down heavily and looked at me, his eyes full of a pain I'd never seen. "You're my daughter," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "DNA doesn't change that. I was there for your first steps. I held you when you were sick. I am your father." "But you lied to me," I said, the tears starting again. "All of you lied." "It was a different time," he said softly. "We made a choice a long time ago. My only regret is that it hurt you. That was the one thing I never wanted to do." The confrontation wasn't one big explosion. It was weeks of painful aftershocks. More tears, more hard conversations. My mother admitted they had a silent agreement with Ben Cohen. He knew about me, and he knew Frank was raising me. He stayed away, but he never left town. The realization that my biological father had knowingly been a ghost in my life was a whole separate kind of hurt. The perfect family I knew hadn't been destroyed, but it had been changed forever. It was replaced by a messy, complicated, and painfully real picture of 3 people who made a choice born from love and fear. It's been 6 months since I got those results. 6 months since my life split into before and after. It hasn't been easy. Some days I wake up and for a second I forget. And then it all rushes back. The anger, the grief, the confusion, they haven't vanished, but the raw shock has settled into a long, messy period of recalibration. My relationship with my parents is a work in progress. Forgiveness isn't a switch you can just flip. Sometimes I see them exactly as I always have, the 2 people who love me more than anything. Other times, the lie feels like a wall between us. I'm learning to hold 2 things at once: the truth of their deep, real love for me and the truth of their massive, life-altering deception. Their choice wasn't malicious, but it doesn't excuse the lie. My relationship with Frank, my dad, has been the hardest to navigate. We're finding our way back slowly. I'm realizing that biology doesn't make a father. He chose me. He stayed. He did the hard work of parenting, day after day. Love he gave me is the most real thing in my life, and no DNA test can ever change that. That's the truth I'm holding on to. As for Benjamin Cohen, my biological father, I haven't reached out. I don't know if I ever will. The fact that he knew I existed and chose to be a stranger is a wound I'm still figuring out. What would I even say? What does he owe me? Right now, the questions are too big and the potential for more hurt is too great. Maybe one day, curiosity will win out over fear. The biggest change has been in me. I've had to ask myself what really defines a person. Is it our genes, our upbringing, the stories we're told? I'm learning that identity isn't a fixed thing. I'm still the person who loves architecture and bad sci-fi movies. But I'm also someone with a newfound Jewish heritage to explore, a whole new branch on my family tree. My life is more complicated, messier, and ultimately more honest than it was before. My childhood wasn't a lie. The love was real. The memories are real, but the story was incomplete. A key chapter was ripped out, and I'm only now starting to piece it back together. And I'm finally, slowly, learning to be okay with that. Thank you for listening. This journey is far from over, and sharing it is part of the healing process. If you have a story about a family secret, a DNA discovery, or a moment that changed everything, please drop it in the comments. Nightfall Narrative is a place to find connection in the dark, and your story matters. Please subscribe for more stories like this.